だったらこっちも切り札を使うぜ。必殺マジシリーズ、マジ殴り。
Alright, we got a lot of stuff to cover in this update, including 2 new fish, a new map, a rented fish system, map hazards, and then balancing and quality of life changes. Now, if you just clicked on this video and you don't know what this game is, it's called Fish Fighting, and it's heavily inspired by Item Asylum. You use different types of fish in different maps and different game modes to try to compete for who can be the winner. At the end of each round, the person or team with the most points ends up being the winner. And obviously there'll be a link in the description. Now let's start by talking about the rented fish system. You get this nice vending machine, and you click on this info icon. This UI pops up that reads fish that are rented are a one-time use. However, they are stronger than regular fish. At the end of the round, if you still have one, it will be removed. If you leave the game with one, it will be removed. If you are given as random, rented fish do not work during the randomizer game mode, so don't buy one. And the current ones are the 1-slap fish and blessed fish. Now you're probably wondering, what's the point of this? Well, fish that you rent are stronger, much stronger. In fact, some of them, including 1-slap fish, can one-shot enemies. This is something I wanted to implement for a long time, but I didn't figure out a good way to do it until just recently. The basis for it is to add some variety to each game and allow you to potentially be stronger for just a short period of time. They only cost 250 cash per fish, so it's not like you can rent it all the time, but it's still cheap enough that you don't have to buy game passes or money to be able to use it often. Of course, right now there are only 2 rented fish, but in the future I plan to add many more. And the reason they're randomized is so that you can't specifically take advantage of each one per game mode, and just to continue with the idea of randomness in the game. So that you kind of understand the point that rendered fish were added, let's get into which ones were added and what they can do. First one we're starting off with is 1-slap fish, obviously based off of Saitama from One Punch Man. Now, it isn't all powerful, but if you look at this, just its first move, when you press it, it's very similar to Basic Fish's move, where it gives you extra knockback, except it's much greater. In addition to this, I gave it a one-shot counter, very similar to Death Counter from Strongest Battlegrounds, which is a very good game, so I'm obviously going to take some inspiration from that. And finally, when you flip the ult bar at the bottom, you can use a Series Slap, which is a much bigger slap with a much larger radius that does a lot of damage. It does about half health, which is about 50 damage, and does enough knockback to sometimes knock someone off the map as well. Alright, now let's get into what Blessed Fish does. The entire point of Blessed Fish is that it's very hard to kill. Basically, it has 3 moves, all of which heal it. Starting off with the first move, which makes your next hit Siphon. Pretty simple stuff there. The second move, however, is much better. It is also a counter, but it works much differently. Basically, however many times you get hit during the counter, or by however many people, all of it heals you. And of course, it knocks the opponent back. You can recover an insane amount of health with that. On top of all of that, with that amount of healing, your ult bar, instead of triggering an ult move or anything like that, every time you press it, consumes part of it just to heal you some more. So you're wondering, what's the point of that? All it does is heal you. Well, I mean, it keeps you alive the entire time, and since the game is based on points rather than kills, it makes it a very viable option, and very good in the game as well, as opposed to just the raw power of 1-slap fish. And also part of it was just to be a placeholder for an extra rented fish. I plan to add more in the future, and I plan to update this one in the future as well, but for now it works. Of course, with all these beautiful new fish being added, you're going to need a way to fight them, and that's mainly because the game doesn't have a lot of players, so if you like what you see here, consider playing the game, please, I beg you. Now, if you remember in the last video, I added a clanker, which is essentially just an AI enemy you can fight when no players are online. But I figured when there are other players, it's a little annoying. So I reorganized it that clankers will only spawn when only 1 player is in the lobby, and there will be 2 clankers alive at any given point. This is to make it more of a challenge and also just spice things up a little bit. In addition to that, there's a 1 in 7 chance that a clanker will actually be a super clanker, which is significantly stronger, takes much less knockback, does a whole lot of damage, so they're very hard to kill. I don't know why I added them there. But anyway, I figured this is a good way to play. If you're alone, you can get in a lobby, fight some of them until someone else joins, and then you can play with them instead. I plan to balance clankers a little more in the future, and maybe potentially add a PvE game mode for the entire lobby against the clankers, where the winner obviously has the most points against the clankers, essentially. But for now, this works as just a mechanism just to entice people to play even when no one's on yet. Now let's talk about the new casino map. If you look around here, you can see we got some slot machines, we got some blackjack dealers, obviously we got this little lounge area, we got these roulette guys over here, and this beautiful stage. So I'm gonna say the best stage ever. I know, great title. So a pretty simple map overall, but the more interesting part about this is the map hazards. This is a new feature I'm working on all the maps. I decided to add one for this map. So every 30 seconds, every player will either get a speed up or slowed down, and they will either gain health, or they will either gain health or lose health. Essentially, it's just more gambling, I guess. I don't really. It adds a little more spice to the map, I think. And I plan to add these for all of them. If you have any suggestions for the rest of the maps, let me know in the comments. But overall, that's the basis for how this map works. And of course, like every other map, it works for all the game modes, including fishball, teams, King of the Hill, you name it. It works for everything. Now let's talk about the other hazard I added. Yes, there's two. Now this other one I've got is for the basketball map, and this one's also pretty simple. It's just basketballs fall from the sky, and if you hit them, you get damaged and knocked back. It's pretty, simple stuff. Of course, now it's just better to play as basketball fish, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, obviously it's a not too complicated system. Like I said, I plan to add these for all the rest of the maps too, but these are just two simple ones I wanted to start with. And I felt this feature would add a little more to each of the map, make them each a little more unique, so there's more to choosing them other than just, oh, I liked how this one looks, you know what I'm saying? Now onto our last little bit. As you can see here, scroll down on the main page, we've got some badges. Yeah, there's one for playing for the first time, your first win, 100 wins, and for buying golden fish, so go get those. And last but not least, we've got some changes made, just a little balancing. So for tornado fish and the stingray, the counters, instead of just having a long cooldown, require you to fill this ult bar. It's a little easier to fill than most of the other ult bars, but I just feel for a one-shot counter, something like this is probably necessary. And you probably notice in the top right corner, whenever you kill someone or whenever you get killed, it'll pop up with the kill feed. Just feel that it's a little nice. I'm considering adding a game pass for a custom message. Varies depending on which fish you use. Planning to add it so there's variety for all of them, obviously, but for now, I think it's a nice touch. Of course, thank you for watching. Check out the game, link in the description. If you have any ideas for what you might think would be cool to add, or some suggestions on what I should add, stuff like that, leave a comment, let me know. I have an update planned on adding specifically features suggested by the community, so if you have anything, there's a chance I'll add it. Just leave a comment, let me know. Go check out the game. Thanks for all the support. See you guys next time.